Good night, everybody. I am the teacher Karen Briones, and today we are going to talk about clean energy in Reventazón River. Did you know that Costa Rica adds its sixth consecutive year with more than 89% of renewable electricity generation? Well, we all know the complicated situation of our planet is in because the pollution and other bad actions that humans cause. Because this, it is necessary to recognize the, the, import, the importance of the use of clean energy in order to improve this situation or for the benefit of our planet. For instance, Costa Rica is a country model for the world because its commitment to the environment, mainly because the use of clean and renewable energy. First of all, it is important to know the concept of clean energy. For example, clean energy is energy that comes from renewable, zero-emission sources that don't pollute the atmosphere when used them, and also energy saved by energy efficiency measures. On the other hand, in many occasions, we confuse the concept of clean energy with green energy and renewable energy. Thank you. For example, green energy is energy that comes from natural resources. Renewable energy is generated by sources that are in constantly, sorry, is a word that I don't remember, that are in constantly replenished. And in the case of clean energy, it's works by producing power without having a negative environmental impacts. For example, it avoids air pollution or, for example, greenhouse gases. On the other hand, sorry, it's important to know that clean energy is also renewable energy, or exists clean energy that is renewable energy, for example, wind power or solar power energy, and other more. Finally, one of the aspects most important for the clean energy are the environmental benefits as for part of a global energy future. Well, I would like to know that someone know about some examples of clean energy that exist in Costa Rica. Uh, I would like first of all that you say me the name or that you give me the name.
Hi, I am Justin Rocha Romero, and I can answer that question. I can mention some examples.
Go ahead.
Because I think that we should know about the source of the energy in our country. So I can mention that there is the solar plant of the Copelesca, located in Buenos Aires. Also the geothermal plant in Miravalles volcano, and the eolic plant of Cacao Wind Park located in Guanacaste. But the most important of all, I think it is the hydroelectric plant of Reventazón that has been built in Limon. I think this because the it this dam um, produces more than the other ones in terms of energy, about 305.5 megawatts of installed capacity. And I mean, this is like the most important one because it is like main source of the energy in the country. But also we can mention some other places. For example, Cachi, the hydroelectric plant of Cachi and Angostura, both located in Cartago. And on the other hand, we have Miguel Dengo and Arenal, the two of them located in Guanacaste. So I think, in my opinion, these examples are the biggest ones on each type of energy that exists in our country right now. But as I was saying, the most important one is the hydroelectric power plant of Reventazón, because it's like the most productive of all. And also we can make a comparison between them. For example, the most um, the most powerful of these energies, or the most common one that the country is using right now, is the hydroelectric, with about 70% of energy produced. And in the second place, we have the geothermal, sharing the second place with the eolic. And the last one, I think, is the solar plant energy, or the solar energy, with less than 7% of usage. So these are like an examples of the energy that the country is using right now. There are more examples, but they are not like important as these ones. And I think that maybe someone can continue with the Reventazón, because for me it's like the most interesting.
Okay, yeah, I can answer that. I'm Rosibel Ortiz, and as we know, Costa Rica is very rich in energy, especially hydroelectric power that needs water from rivers to produce energy or electricity, like as we know. But have you ever heard about it? I mean, the Reventazón, obviously, right? This hydroelectric plant is one of the biggest here in Costa Rica, and not only here, also in all Central America. Central America. To know more about this important resource for our country, let's see general information. This plant is located 8 kilometers southwest of Limon, Siquirres. The project began in 2010 and was given to Costa Rican people in 2016. Also, we have to know that the company that was behind uh, on this project was ICE, and the Reventazón River is the main source for this plant. That's why its name is Reventazón. Now, this plant this plant has a height of 130 meters, a length of 1.2 kilometers. It has tunnels of 14 meters in diameter. It also has a 7 square kilometers reservoir. On the other hand, to create this hydroelectric plant, not only it was necessary for our country its own financing, but it also had to get international credits. Its cost was very, very expensive, but here we have an important and essential resource, since this plant benefited more than a half a million of Costa Rican population. Now, here we have the name of some parts that compound the Reventazón hydroelectric plant, and these first we have the diversion works, dam, water intake, diving tunnel, swing tank, machinery room, ecological compensation center, and the last one, electrical substation. But having all of this information, why did the Reventazón hydroelectric project manage its environmental impact? Why? This is because it was carried out with land to reforest. There was social responsibility, and also with support programs, employment was generated, helping communities. The construction of new infrastructures such as roads, schools, and health centers. An important point is that reforestation was carried out in nearby communities, so it helped a lot of people. And we don't have to forget that they were doing a correct water monitoring, so what that was good. And those were some important ways that is put in practice when the project was planned. It is important to know that this type of energy requires a lot of infrastructure, and that's why it has it can also alter the water, the quality of life of the water, in addition to modifying land, housing, and habitats. But why is the Reventazón hydroelectric plant so important for our country? Um, this is because it helps many Costa Rican people. It had its advantages, but in fact, the electricity is very necessary for our lives. At this point, maybe people could not live without energy because it has become part of our daily routines. So yeah, and now maybe I would like to know um, some disadvantages or advantages. Maybe someone can tell us.
Well, I know some advantages. Um, for example, this type of energy is recognized for renewable energy because there are many types of renewable resources and others that are non-renewable. Since it is obtained from water and doesn't involve the depletion of the source, it is very viable to use, we can say. And also, the water is natural replenished, so is not affected by the creation of this energy. Um, Also, this type of energy is very stable. Um, Unlike, for example, like solar energy that depends directly from the situation of the sky. Um, we can also mention this quote that says hydroelectric energy is classified as a renewable energy source because it is powered by water and water is naturally replenished resource. Other advantage is fight climate changes because when the process of transforming hydraulic energy into electrical energy doesn't produce any waste, so it's very, very clean. Um, but exist others like, for example, energy derived from fossil fuels and nuclear energy that is not um, so good for the environment and the planet also. And also, since it doesn't use fossil fuels, it is not affected by the fluctuation of the price of the oil, coal, and natural gas. And we have this quote that says, it also makes an important contribution to fight against climate change because it helps avoid the use of fossil fuels and reduce CO2 emissions as well as the production of climate changing gases and particulate matter, combining both pollution and greenhouse effects in the process. Um, so it's a substitute to or a substitute for other more pollution sources of energy. So the environment is not affected when we use or when we produce. But also have disadvantages. One of them is drought. Water is not diminished by the generation of this type of water, of energy, sorry, but but energy could be affected by the reduction of this resource. For example, this quote says that the ability to create energy can be severely reduced if there is a drought and not enough water is flowing into the plant. So, for example, in many countries, they need, for example, irrigation is required, and the volume of water is reduced, with a consequence that decrease of the energy produced. And also in many places or countries or cities, they face serious water supply problems. So if it's not enough water to in supply to the population, and for example agriculture and other things that need uh, a lot of water, is going to be complicated create this energy because it needs a lot of energy. And maybe there are some advantages or disadvantages that someone else wants to mention. I don't know.
So yes, I know another disadvantage. My name is Cindy Rico. Hello. Well, I know another disadvantage about this is the damage to wildlife habitats, or damage to the ecosystem is another disadvantage that the hydroelectric plant can cause to our environment. Well, this disadvantage or this damage is when the hydroelectric plants cause to the ecosystem and wildlife habitats, since at the time of the construction of the hydroelectric plant, the water supply is directly impacted, is directly interrupted, and it damages the habitats of those animals that have a direct connection to the river or they knew them. So, well, this type of disadvantage or this type of damage has can be founded into three ways. The first way is the damage by deconstruction. This first can occur at the time of the construction of the hydroelectric plant, since it can directly affect the habitats of those animals that inhabit the place, for example, beavers or a fish population. And well, by this damage, those animals can lose their entire home, their entire habitat by this first type of damage. So the second type is the damage by the water supply. This type is when the hydroelectric plant damage those animals that don't live in the water but depend on it. And since the water once used in the hydroelectric plant, so it loses its sediments, so the water loses its sediments, its minerals, and this could cause reduction in the birth rate because there are no minerals, there are no sediments that animals need to their reproduction, and it could affect the birth rate and also their habitats, because wildlife habitats need those minerals as well, need those sediments as well. And well, the third damage is damage by the environmental impact. This type of damage can occur in some habitats when due to environmental impact that the hydroelectric plant cause. The natural process of the life expectancy of animals is interrupted since wildlife population have a balance, but if that balance is lost, then there will be population that will be increased and others that will be reduced considerably. And also at the same time damaging wildlife habitats because they also lose their balance and sometimes can be completely destroyed by this type of damage. And also the biodiversity is lost. This type of damage destroy the biodiversity, and is a very negative disadvantage or a negative consequence by the construction of the hydroelectric plant. So, well, I think that is all about this disadvantage that I know, and I want to ask to make a summary of about all of this because it's very interesting, this topic. And is so we have known the difference between clean energy, green energy, and renewable energy. And wow, it's very interesting also that water is a clean resource that we can find in the hydroelectric plant to get a benefit from it. So this benefit is the electricity, and is hydroelectric plants, as we already know, have too many advantages, and it's amazing, but also has its disadvantages that are very negative to our environment. And well, I found an information about this, that some professionals on the subject about the environmental impact caused by the hydroelectric plant, they have currently begun to work or on how they can or what they can to solve all of this problem, or how can they mitigate, or how can they reduce the environmental impact caused by hydroelectric plant. And well, these are good news, because is the beginning to try to solve all of these problems, and or just to try to reduce a little bit. And yes, I think it's all that I want to talk about, that I have all of this information, and all of this was very interested. And yes, that's it. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, guys, for your participation.
Yes, it's a pleasure.